So yesterday we put in the differential into the subframe. Now it's just putting in the axles, getting the brake lines on, and trying to eyeball an alignment so that I can get the car back on the ground. Okay, so the wheel moved. I'm going to take off the spacer because that's currently in the way. Okay, with that off, I'm going to tighten down the axle nut. Okay, so now I'm looking at it. The car is definitely towed out slightly. So what I'm going to do is get underneath the car, and I am going to adjust this arm. So basically what I did was I loosened up this nut here and this nut here so that this can turn. The more that this turns out so that it gets longer, the further it's going to push the rear end of the tire out, which will point the front side of it in, towing it in. So I'm just, right now, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. It's not going to be perfect. It never is. You should really get an actual alignment at an alignment shop. But it's starting to look a little bit better.
Okay, so just got in my car. Basically, I have to pull the dash out. I cut, as you can see right there, I had to trim the dash so the cage would fit for the down tubes. And now basically the dash has to come back out. I already disconnected the steering column so I can push the steering wheel down and the whole column down and kind of get the dash up over the steering wheel. I mean, the steering wheel comes out because it's, you know, a quick release, but to get it kind of over the ignition and the stocks and everything, which I removed also so they don't snap off. But the big thing is right here, there's, on the left hand side of the steering column, there's a column adjuster, you know, a steering wheel height adjuster, and the dash catches on that. So that's loose, so I can push it down and pop the dash up over it. And all, like, the wiring inside for the gauge cluster and for the HVAC controls, the ECU, all that stuff is tucked behind the dash. So we have to pull that out in order to get at all that wiring so we can get to the SMJ and pull everything through. So, check it out.
If I had to take an L, take it on the chin. Lennox Lewis ting, all I do is win. Seattle for my bling. All you hear is chicken wings.
So we got the dash out of the car. Steve came over. We basically pulled the wiring harness from that side of the car all the way around the front and then through this hole in the firewall to sneak it through for the SMJ. And then had to kind of rig some things together. Not really rig some things together, but we had to kind of figure out how to pull everything through without cutting pieces of the harness. So we got it all out in one piece. Steve at Numbwyre has it right now. He's been gutting things like the motors for the pop-up headlights because I don't need those. He pulled all the wiring out for the igniter for the coil. On the original setup, like I said before in a previous video, that it had the cap and rotor on it. So with the cap and rotor, it has the igniter pack. We no longer need that because we have coil packs. So we're pulling the washer fluid squirter motor wiring out and just a bunch of random accessory stuff that we don't need in a drift car. So we took the cage over to the shop next door and hung it up, painted it. Tom fucked up, didn't get any video footage of the cage being painted, but it's really rad and kind of violet purple and super sparkly. As you can see, I'm not sure how the sparkles translate.
Oh, you can fucking
camera, see them. But it's pretty fucking rad.
It looks like a fucking stripper farted on him.
True that. So we got the cage all painted. We're going to wait for Steve to get us the wiring harness back, and then we're going to reinstall the wiring harness with new fuse box, new relay panel, relocate the ECU, and do a few other things that we'll show in future videos. Yep. So we'll get some videos of the cage going back in and show you guys kind of how to put the dash back in with less bolts than it actually came with, but enough to hold it in place. So, tactical, quick release also, dashboards.
That garbage pile.
And add to that garbage pile.
It's a good looking garbage pile.
True that it is. The trash can stinks like shit though. It's like vinegar and stripper cum. It's gross, crusty. So basically, like I said, we're waiting for Steve. Tom keeps fucking me up here.
Because I'm laughing a lot right now.
As soon as we get that stuff back, we'll have a little bit more on how to put things back together, and we'll show a little bit of like gauge wiring, and we're going to do push button start, install, and toggle switches that run 2 relays for things like the fuel pump, headlights, etc.
All those how-tos that Pep Boys forgets to tell you when they sell you that ignition panel.
True that. So we'll get a few tutorials on different things that we're going to be making in-house, I guess, if you will. We'll probably end up over at Spencer's shop to build some cool stuff.
Oh yeah, we gotta go steal that chop saw.
Yeah, true that.
I forgot about that.
And we'll hit you back with some cool ass videos, so stay tuned.